Welcome in. You are listening or watching to the first ever exclusive trivia episode of Extra Time. Here on the Extra Time podcast, we've decided to break away. We're loving the trivia that we're doing. We're still working on it. But today I've just got Woodsy again. No Fish, unfortunately, who's usually the brains of the trivia, really. But for the first time ever, it's a separate trivia episode and you'll be watching this on YouTube, obviously, where you found us. So we'll have a few questions for the great man, Mark Woods. So, Woodsy, are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be. I'm a bit nervous when you told me about this, and I'm just looking at it now, and I know that this is more of a Noah Fisher question. So I think this is going to be one where we recycle it after I'm done with it and pass it on to Noah Fisher. But for now, let's see how I go.
Right, so this week we have the 2023 draft class for you, Woodsy. It's just the top 14. You'll see, well, I'll explain in a second the rules, but basically last week, if you watched the show, we had the 2023 to 2024 sort of off-season moves. So I decided that since we're going into round one this week, we might, need to refresh people's minds on the draft class that happened last year. So all the fresh faces, you'll see I'll have the Shees up there, the latest rising star, but we're not talking about his class. We're talking about all the fellas that got drafted into the AFL in November of last year. So as you see, where they came from is on the left, and the club that they got drafted to is on the right, and it's the top 14 going left, and then obviously, so 1 to 7 down to this Eastern Rages Melbourne, and then the second 7 down the right side. So, Woodsy, when you're ready, mate, fire away.
Well, I think I'm only going to get about 2 or 3 here. My knowledge on draftees, as you see, there's no St Kilda. So you've asked me a question when there's no Saints, so I think it's only Harley Reid.
Harley Reid, correct. Pick one from the Bendigo Pioneers to the West Coast Eagles. Now, Harley will almost no doubtly debut this weekend for West Coast.
This is where I basically stumble. Now, there's only 2 people that I've got in my mind at the moment. And one of them's the Gippsland Power to North Melbourne because of... You've brought him up a couple of times. He has a brother that's played in the AFL, if it's the one I'm thinking of. Is it Dersma?
It is Zane Dersma, correct.
And the only other one that I will possibly get... Now, a Melbourne player that debuted. Now, I don't know if I'm right or not, or if I've got the right club that he was drafted to, but Howes?
I'll have to check that one. He's not in the top 14, but he was drafted to Melbourne, but he's not the one you're looking for.
Well, those were the 3 that I knew were drafted, as there are no Saints, and
all right, just try and have a crack. Just try and remember the top draftees from each club. Like that was a good way of going about it with Melbourne. But I guess to give you a clue or to help you along, the way I guess I'd go about it is there's been a lot of media around all the club's top picks. So just think about...
I haven't really been paying attention to the club's top picks here. So as I said...
You've got 2 more strikes, so you might as well just shoot a name that you've heard. And then basically once you strike out, I can start giving you some clues.
I'm stumped on them. Can I just tap out now? I think this is going to be a Noah Fisher victory.
I'm not letting you take the knee, mate. I need you to shoot. I know it's in there. I'll give you... Come on.
There's another Reid up there.
No.
He went late to West Coast now that I'm thinking about it.
No, not quite. There's a few that will stump you, so maybe stay away from the later 14, but I guess there's a couple in the top 5.
I've been sticking away from the AFL media knowing that it's going to be intense for the next couple of months.
That's fair enough.
It's... Who was second draft? Oh. Even then, I can't think of it, even though I say it's Tasmania.
It's got a funny name. He will debut this weekend.
The
Trying
only
to push
person,
you along.
okay, the only person that I know is debuting this weekend is Wilson from St Kilda, and so
You need to broaden your following.
I was opening round last weekend, and that was enough.
You haven't
broadening.
You haven't started well on these trivias. I'll give you some clues just for the sake of the viewers probably turning off with the poor form of Mark Woods here. So, would you like a clue for the ones that I reckon are quite straightforward?
Okay, go on.
So obviously you got Dersma. That one I expect you to get because I've talked about him a lot. So that pick 2 that you were thinking of, that I just mentioned, North Melbourne midfielder. He's a left footer. You no idea? Okay.
No idea.
Well,
I think this is where, if we leave it here for this one, because Noah Fisher has to
I
just
reckon you'll
be
get
two.
the Hawks one. He's a small forward. He's really, really short. Nickname The Wiz. Has the same surname as a former Australian all-rounder named Shane.
I was thinking Watson. Am I right there? Okay. At least I've got one I wouldn't.
Nick Watson.
This is why I'm saying I'm not. If it was around draft time, great. And hit me up with this, because if I'm all attention to it and then everything else happens and then I move on, and you've got me stumped on all of these.
So hopefully Fish doesn't watch this and he'll clean up your crumbs next week. But I'll start. I'll see if I can give you any more clues. Pick 3 was a big forward from the Gold Coast Suns Academy and Palm Beach Currumbin Footy Club. No, Jed Walter.
Yeah. As I said, I've had.
So Sandringham to the Bulldogs. There was a bit of debate about him. He's a midfielder. He wore the number 9. I'm pretty sure I talked about him last episode. He dominated the midfield in the practice match against Hawthorn. Blonde hair. Where's the long socks?
No, I would not be able to.
He was the player of the carnival at the national championships. Someone I wish the Hawks drafted. Riley Sanders.
So you wish they picked him over Dersma?
No, over Watson, yes.
Oh, so.
Going down.
This is how good I'm
This
going here.
Eastern Rangers to Melbourne player debuted on Thursday night off the wing. Quite skinny, young-looking fella. Lots of pace. His surname is also a suburb in sort of eastern Melbourne. Caleb Windsor.
A bit inner east, yeah.
Yeah. Daniel Curtin was the Adelaide Crows pick. He obviously came out of Claremont in the Waffle. Next up, we've got Ethan Reid, who's a ruckman, and he was one of 3 for the Gold Coast out of their academy. Next up is Nate Caddy from the Knights to Essendon, related to Josh Caddy.
Josh Caddy, yeah.
Bush Rangers, these ones are probably the hardest of the list, so I didn't expect you to get this. These ones might even trip Noah up. So we've got Connor O'Sullivan from the Bush Rangers to Geelong, and then Phoenix Gothard, who was not projected to go anywhere near the top 20, and he had to wear his mate's t-shirt if you're watching the draft.
Yep.
Yeah. So Phoenix Gothard to the Giants. Colton Tholstrup from, I'll just check about that, Subiaco to Melbourne. So Colton's probably a pretty tough one if someone didn't follow the draft. Finally, number 14 was Jake Rogers, the 3rd academy selection for the Gold Coast Suns. But you did all right. You got 3. We'll definitely tell Noah to not watch and see if he can get and do better next week. But I'll bring up our next one for you. Just give me a moment.
Hopefully I can do better in this one. It's not knowing what the topics are and having kind of pushed the draftees to the back of the mind. I would have liked to have thought I could have done better, but not this time.
So, we are expanding. So, here's our second one. And basically, the premise for this was that for the first time ever, the Gold Coast Suns sit atop the AFL ladder. And the Greater Western Sydney Giants are right up there with them. So, 2 of AFL's expansion teams. So, basically, the parameters of this are, since 2000, just football codes and basketball, Australian expansion teams that are currently active. since 2000. And I've given you the league and the year that they came into the league.
Okay, now
So-
this is more up my alley. I'm
Give me
excited about
a
this. So,
second. Before we kick off, give me 1 second.
Yep.
So I did think this would be more up your alley, like I said off air. So let's see how you go with this one. So you can just shoot away. I'll obviously need just the team name. And if you
Okay,
get it
we've got,
correct, their logo will pop up.
the Dolphins.
Yeah. Well, you've got to pick the square.
2023 NRL. I think they are just known as the Dolphins.
Correct. They're
Um,
from Redcliffe, but I think
yeah.
they're just known as the Dolphins. Correct.
2019 is the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, and 2020 would be the Jack Jumpers for the NBL.
Bang! See, he's single-handedly returning the faith in his trivia
So
career.
2011 would be Gold Coast. 2012 would be GWS. I was going to say Gold Coast Titans for the NRL. Don't worry.
Now it's just. Now I thought you might get all of those ones.
Now
since-
2011, Melbourne Rebels.
Correct. You can't be stopped.
2019 is. I actually feel like you're missing a few here for the A League, because there was a few teams.
I've only got present ones. So if they, because I got it.
Okay.
I've got this article off the Sydney Morning Herald, and they had every expansion team since 2000.
So I'll
But
go.
I've just included the ones that are currently active.
Okay, so I'll see if I'm right on this because
You've got three
there
strikes.
are a few active ones that came in recently for the A League. I will try and remember the name, but I'll go 2010 is Melbourne Heart / Melbourne City.
Correct.
2012 is WSW, Western Sydney Wanderers.
Correct again.
And Western United is one of the A League teams I've been talking about. Is it the one you've got?
He's flawless. This is why we play Trivia Woods. This is why we have a crack, because out of nowhere it can just turn in your favour. And I was making this thinking this is definitely something that you'd be well across, even if Draftees isn't. That was quite a sensational performance. So, yeah, just to cap off, sensational run from Woods there. No strikes and correct answers all across the board. So we're expanding, and we'll talk about it a bit more, I'm sure, in our latest episode of the podcast. Make sure you catch that one as well. But what an effort from the Gold Coast Suns and the GWS Giants to really make massive statements over the weekend. And really all of these teams here have had some pretty big success.
Now, I did highlight the fact I thought you missed one, and I've just had to look and dive into it. I believe you missed MacArthur.
I did. I didn't put them in because I wasn't sure you were going to get that. But there's also one more that I haven't played yet, and there's another league I didn't include in Super Netball, which I could have included as well. But maybe we can save that for next time. But yeah, you did a really good job. But that's trivia. Let us know if you enjoy this separate trivia episode. We're trying to make them short and sharp, a bit of fun, and hopefully we can get Fish back, or Mark can sort of put a bit more consistency to his performances, not make them so massive hit, massive miss. But make sure you catch the next one. I'm sure there'll be another one next week. And yeah, like and subscribe. Thank you.